As you all enter the cavern in front of you, you hear a voice call out from the darkness. It seems I have visitors. Come, speak with me, and let's see if we can reach an accord. As the form of a huge dragon steps out of the shadows towards you all. What would you like to do? Hello, and welcome to Tuna's Tales. This time on Pondering Monsters, we'll be covering an encounter with an adult black dragon. This is meant as more of a social encounter rather than a full-on combat, and as usual is designed for a party of 4 to 5 characters at around 5th level. If this doesn't quite match with your group, that's okay. Still stick around, because I'll be talking about how to scale this up towards the end of the video. To run this encounter, you'll ideally be needing a cave system near a smallish village, and the caves should be inhabited by something like gnolls, bugbears, etc. You'll also be needing the stats for a black dragon from the monster manual, as well as a little magic item that I've created for this encounter that I'll be detailing later on. Finally, I will be using some established lore for this dragon, specifically that black dragons tend to be chaotic evil. However, this one is going to be smart chaotic evil and realizes that the party could probably be of some use to it. So, with the setup there out of the way, let's take a look at what the overall idea behind this encounter is. This dragon has been captured by the denizens of this cave system and is being held prisoner. It wants to escape, but it realizes that it probably can't do that on its own. However, a group of adventurers did just show up. Maybe they could be of some use to it. In exchange, it will promise them a favor or aid at a later point in time, as well as letting them live. Now, this overview immediately raises some questions, mainly, how did your party get here? How did the denizens of this cave capture such a powerful creature? Why can't the dragon just escape on its own? And why would the party help this creature rather than just kill it? You can answer these however you see fit. For questions 1 and 2, I'll be covering them in my next video, but for now I'll just be giving them a brief overview. For the rest of the questions, I'll be detailing how I would probably answer them in my games. So, on to questions 1 and 2. How did the party get here, and how did the denizens of this cave manage to capture such a powerful creature? For question 1, I'd recommend using the village mentioned at the start of this video. Just to keep things simple here, let's say that these creatures, living in the caves, have attacked said town recently and managed to take some townsfolk hostage. The adventurers have been asked to help out by going and rescuing any survivors they can from the caves. For question 2, I'm going to go with magic. Specifically, whatever creatures you put here have a shaman of sorts that, through the use of a magic item, has managed to weaken the dragon enough to force it inside and make it act as a jail guard for it. Both of these answers are a little more bare bones than I would prefer, but they're enough to keep us moving forward, so let's keep on with it. As for question 3, this is a powerful adult dragon. Why can't it just break out on its own? As a black dragon specifically, it has acid breath. Any chains holding it in the cave it can just melt through, right? Well, this is where the answer to question 2, magic, comes in. The shaman of these creatures has access to an orb that negates the dragon's breath weapon and ability to fly while within a certain range of it. The creatures of this cave have set the orb up in the same room as the dragon to keep it in range, as well as remind it who's really in charge here. At the same time, the orb is enchanted such that while the dragon is under its influence, it's unable to attack the orb. So, just what is this fantastical magical orb called? I call it the Orb of Draconic Binding. This item is a magical focus that can be used to strip a dragon of some of its more dangerous abilities, namely the dragon's breath weapon and flight abilities. This item is unique in that it isn't a magic item, but instead is a conduit for a specific spell that has been cast into it, and only the original caster of the spell can control it from there on out. The wording of this item is very specific, as it's not really meant to be something that the party can get their hands on. It's a special item that only the shaman of the cave's inhabitants can truly use. If you do want to reward your party with this as an item, though, and you don't want it to be too powerful, then when the orb gets destroyed, which I'll cover in a second, you can say that one of the shards is suitable enough for someone who attunes to it to gain resistance to the elemental damage type of the dragon that you decided to put in this cave. Additionally, you could say that the orb itself would be able to act as a +1 spell focus or a drift globe even. Finally, why would the party want to help this creature rather than kill it in its weakened state? Simple. There are hostages present, and we're assuming that you have a party that wants to rescue the survivors. Said survivors of the raid on the nearby village are being kept prisoner here, with the Black Dragon acting as prison guard. Remember how I said that he was smart evil? Well, being smart evil would mean that he is able to logic out that the adventurers were probably sent to rescue these villagers. That being the case, he can use their safety as sort of a bargaining chip. Free him, and he won't eat the prisoners. Add in the fact that even without its breath weapon, this dragon should still be deadly enough for a group of level 5 characters that they shouldn't want to fight him if any of the characters know anything about dragons. If it still looks like they want to fight it, then maybe a nice show of force could be in order. Something like a patrol of the cave's inhabitants coming in, and upon seeing them, the dragon leaps over and kills them all in one go. This would mean that your party has just witnessed this dragon leap over to a group of the exact same creatures that your party has been fighting their way through this entire time, and like it was nothing, take them out in one go. This should hopefully tell your party that this creature is still very powerful, and that talking would probably be in their best interest. At this point, we now know the general direction that we want to go. We've answered the most important questions, so let's start putting this all together, starting with your party entering the room with the prisoners and the Black Dragon. As you all enter the cavern ahead of you, you see a glowing orb of sorts near the middle of the room that is casting some dim, pale green light around the chamber and stretching the shadows into eerie poses. At the far end of the cavern, you can just begin to make out what looks like some cages that appear to have some humanoids in them. You can just barely hear the sounds of someone crying softly. As you're all looking around at this, you hear a deep voice call out to you from the shadows. "Seems I have some visitors. Here for the prisoners, no doubt. Come, let us chat and see if we cannot reach a mutually beneficial accord." You watch as a huge black dragon, covered in chains, makes its way towards the cages and comes to a stop near them to rest a massive claw on the one nearest it. With this, the party should know that they've now found what they're looking for, and that there's something here with them that's out of their league, though not an immediate threat. "I presume you are here for the recent prisoners that I am tasked with keeping an eye on. As you can see, I do not take this job of my own choosing, so I'd like to propose a deal with you all. Free me by destroying that orb, and I'll help you and the prisoners escape from here. Additionally, I will make myself available to you for a single favor. Oh, and I'll let you and the prisoners live." You all can see the claw that the dragon has placed on one of the cages starts to press down, and the thick wooden beams that make up its construction start to make little cracking sounds as the prisoners inside start to panic. With this interaction, the party should have everything they need to make a decision. If they choose to ignore the dragon or refuse its offer, it has no problem eating a cage of prisoners. There'll be more, and it has time to wait for someone else to come along. If they choose to help the dragon, though, then it'll give its word to the agreement and should do its best to uphold that promise. Dragons are creatures of honor, after all, even evil ones. As for the orb, all the party needs to do now is either smash it or cast Dispel Magic on it. If we're going with the smash route, then we can say that the orb has an AC of 15 and that 3 successful hits will be enough to break it. You can even say that a critical hit is 2 successes here. As for the Dispel route, a successful casting at 4th level will be enough to shatter the orb, or casting Dispel Magic at 3rd level with a successful DC 14 Arcana check will suffice. As soon as the orb has been hit or dispelled, the shaman should know that something is up, prompting alarms to go off in the cave system. Meanwhile, the newly freed black dragon will have begun melting its way through its chains with its renewed acid breath, after which it will begin boring an unstable hole through the rock up to the surface. While all of this is going on, the party will still need to free the prisoners from their cages by either picking the locks or smashing open the doors. To do this, allow your party to make whatever checks or skills you deem appropriate. With the dragon on the loose and the prisoners freed, let's get some excitement going. As soon as the party opens the last cage of prisoners, the dragon will have made it to the surface. But there's a bit of a problem now. You see, the tunnel that the dragon has dug is unstable, dripping with acid, and has started to collapse. Furthermore, it seems that this tunnel also may have destabilized the entire cave network that everyone's in right now. And if that wasn't bad enough, the party is just able to make out the first of the cave's inhabitants making their way into the cavern here to check out the cause of the alarm. What's a group to do? I'll cover this escape attempt in my next video, as it deals more with the cave's inhabitants than it does the black dragon at this point. But as to not leave you all hanging completely, I'd suggest that the party start making their way up this newly dug tunnel while covering the prisoner's escape. Whatever's living down here is just gonna keep coming. However the party does try to get out, though, they should be rewarded when they do. The dragon made them a promise, and it intends to deliver on it. Upon reaching the surface, the party can find one of the dragon's scales laying on the ground with a draconic rune scratched onto it. The intent here is that if the party breaks the scale as an action, they will have called the black dragon to them, and it will appear and can make good on its promise. So, what if you have a higher level party? Given that this is intended as more of a social encounter, the main things you could do would be to make the dragon deadlier to help it stay in the realm of a social encounter, or increase the DCs used at any point to somewhere around the 16 plus range. Another thing that you could do that would be kind of difficult but fairly rewarding would be to add some sort of time pressure. Something like more of the cave's inhabitants are doing patrols and enter the cavern before the dragon has a chance to be freed. This makes the party have to deal with freeing the dragon while also fighting off waves of enemies. For a party of the same size at about level 10 though, an adult black dragon should still be enough of a challenge for them should things devolve into combat. If you think your party can handle an adult well enough though, feel free to make it an ancient black dragon instead. Another option available to you would be to use the draconic spellcasting options listed in Fizben's Treasury of Dragons, though that might get a little hard to explain things narratively as to why the dragon couldn't escape on its own if it suddenly starts casting spells. Other things that you could do to scale this encounter would be to increase the AC of the orb from 15 to 20 and require 5 successful hits instead of 3. You could also say that Dispel Magic needs to be cast at around levels 4 or 5 rather than levels 3 or 4. Doing either of the above options could also serve to alert the patrols of the cave to come and investigate the cavern a couple of rounds earlier. Doing this can be exciting and would allow the dragon to join the party in combat briefly. It also plays nicely with the time crunch option I listed earlier. Doing any or all of the above should be enough to make things reasonably more difficult for higher levels of play. However, there is something to be aware of if you're running for a group of characters around level 15 plus. Characters at that level tend to be strong and typically know it, so no matter what you do, things may devolve into combat regardless. If you do have a party that woke up and chose violence, then regardless of their level, the combat should be difficult but not impossible. Just enough to make them question their life choices. If things are looking too easy for them though, then you can help things along by saying that the orb loses its influence for a couple of rounds. Just long enough for the dragon to be at full strength briefly. And that's how you can run a social encounter with a black dragon. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and at the very least, I hope it gave you some interesting ideas to run with.
If it did, then feel free to drop a like, as it helps out a new channel and lets me know I'm on the right path with this. Additionally, I left out information regarding the cave's inhabitants, but as I said, I'll be covering that next. So if you're interested in seeing what I pick for who's living down here and what dangers a party could face, then subscribe and do that thing with the bell so that you can get notified when the next video comes out. And if you didn't like this, then let me know in the comments below. Or if you're feeling really crazy, tell me what you did like, or if there are any monsters that you want to see covered sooner than later. With that, thanks for letting me talk at all of you, and until next time, keep pondering.